Greetings, Neocoma, Acoma Kings. Our assignment this week were to select 3 women in 4 categories that fit those subjects. That was scientists, that was scholars, that was lover, good wives, that was warriors, and last but not least, queens. My scientists for these 3 categories are as follows. Annie Jean Easley was a computer scientist, mathematician who invented a high-energy rocket technology which helped boost the rockets into space. She obtained her degree at Cleveland State University in Ohio. Once at NASA, she worked on the shuttle launches and a rocket program that created a unique fuel system and a high energy rocket technology that used liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen to boost the rockets into space. And if you recall, there was a very popular movie called Hidden Figures, which also had 3 extraordinary, amazing women who did the calculations for the space shuttles. This particular young lady made the fuel. Unsung heroes, people we don't know about. My second scientist is Charlotte N. Gerson. Charlotte N. Gerson. She was an inventor of software, AI technology, which is really, really on the rise today, for facial recognition services for the identity verification. Miss Charlotte lives in Ghana, so we have a sister from the motherland. Her group is called BACE, B-A-C-E, BACE. In 2020, Charlotte was the first woman to win a prestigious Royal Academy of Engineering of Africa Prize for engineering and innovation. And as you know today, facial recognition is used for now passcodes to come inside buildings. They use facial recognition in FBI and forensic work. And they also use facial recognition on your phone. You can actually use your face, fingertip, or a code. And once they have your face, they got your face. My third and final scientist is Gladys Mae Brown West, who led the Global Positioning System. We'll know what that is. The Global Positioning System. Born in Virginia and went to the Virginia State University. She received her bachelor's degree in mathematics, got her second master's degree in public administration from the University of Oklahoma. Her doctorate was in public administration at the age of 70. So she was still learning, still improving, still trying to reach her best. In 2018, she was 70 years old. Miss Gladys managed to create a project called CSAT project. It was the first satellite that could remotely sense ocean using radar to measure the distance between a satellite and the surface of the Earth, of the Earth's ocean. This project led to the GeoStat, the U.S. Navy program that created the computer model to check out the Earth's surface. This led to today's accuracy, which is called GPS. There is nowhere on this planet where we don't use a GPS system. It has become our CNI dog. You will not go anywhere, even in the places that you know and you are familiar with, you'll still turn on your GPS system. She was inducted into the U.S. Air Force Space and Missile Pioneer Hall of Fame. No money for this invention was ever given to this young lady. Why? She worked under the U.S. Navy. If she was a private business or a private entity, she would be a multi-billionaire, not millionaire, billionaire. That concludes my scientists. I move now to my scholars. These are some brilliant women. My first scholar is Joy DeGruy, another scholar that's not really recognized a lot in speaking circles, but she's well known. And I'm going to tell you some data, then you'll be familiar who she is if you don't already know. She's the author of one of the most powerful books to describe the effects of Black people, titled Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Must-read book, must be in your vocabulary, must be in your library. She holds a master's degree in social work and a master's degree in clinical psychology, a PhD in social work research. She has lectured all over the world and has worked in her field for over 30 years. She's definitely a gem in our midst. And I salute you, Shiro. My second scholar is Marva Collins. Marva Collins, when public schools were failing, she said, why not start your own? She's known for creating the West Side Preparatory School in the West Side of Chicago. Her dictionary was her only book. Now get this, Kings. She had a dictionary that was your reading, that was your vocabulary, that was your spelling, that was making sentences up. And you know how thick and big a Webster dictionary. So her students created and made the highest test scores compared to any school in the state of Illinois. She set the bar for charter schools and homeschooling today. My third scholar is Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison was born February 18th, 1931. She went to Howard University and Cornell. She was a novelist and known for her best-selling books. Her notable awards was the prestigious Presidential Medal of Freedom, a National Humanities Medal. She's won the Nobel Peace Prize in Literature and Pulitzer Award in Fiction. She was a mother of two. The question was asked by a reporter one day, and I remember this interview very well. So what are you going to do about this racism? You know, they have a history of putting the question on you. And Malcolm said, I always ask the question with a question. Ask them, put it back on them. And her answer was, what am I going to do about this racism? I think it's your problem. You created it, so you fix it. So a salute again to this fantastic and wonderful lady, Shiro. That's the scholars. Now we're going to move to the lovers. The lovers are a little edgy, but you know, teacher has told us sometimes when you bring something to the table or to the group, express something that affected you, that was in your life. So this particular lover was one that was instrumental and pivotal in my direction in my life years ago, maybe 30 years ago, in fact. This first lover is Iyanla Vanzant. controversial person today, but when we embarked or met her, she was a Yoruba priestess. Again, her credentials are she's a speaker, lawyer, author, life coach. She's been married 3 times. Sometimes marriages, sometimes relationships don't work. Sometimes they do. She had 3. But her first husband, by the name of Adi Yami, I met this young man when she was engaged and met him, and I met her, and I'm going to tell you that story. So that was her first husband. She was married 2 more times since then, so she's had 3 divorces. Her first marriage was a very, very brutal and painful marriage. He was an abuser. I think she had to get out of the house and out of the city and run for her life. And of course, those situations make scars. But I've been taught, and I'm actually learning, that sometimes your wound can become your greatness. From your wound, you can become great and soar. So I believe that's what happened to her. The reason I chose Miss Van Zandt because in 1997, myself and a group of young friends, we went to Chicago to see her. And this was a woman, the place was Harpo Studios, which was owned by Oprah Winfrey. The men were lined up around the corner. I'd never seen anything like this. We had men all the way around the block, so it could be at least 200 or 300 men outside waiting to get in that particular building. You see, this was the first time Oprah Winfrey had an all-male audience, so we were all eager and ready to go in there. Oprah was totally overwhelmed. She gave the mic and gave the floor to Iyanla Vanzant. I remember clearly today, the room was packed, and she began her speech by saying, "No one's listening to your cry for help," talking to us men. "I'm listening, and I feel your pain." Grown men began to vent, explaining about their suffering in relationships and dysfunctioning. This was the first time in my life that I ever saw that on a national scale. We felt loved by a Black woman. Even then, her books were directed toward women. One particular woman book was called In the Meantime. One day my soul just opened up. These books like that, men were reading those books. So what we were doing was looking for male initiations. We were looking for rites of passage. We didn't have them then. There was one particular Caucasian by the name of Robert Bly, who I didn't know was collaborating with Malidoma Somé. I was this close to running across Malidoma, and I know I would have been into his world, but I spoke, and I actually didn't meet, but I actually read and listened to all Robert Bly's books and tapes, so it was not to be. So, in conclusion on her, Iyanla Vanzant, relationships were a big problem then and still are today. My second lover and good wife is no other than R&B artist Angie Stone. And the reason I chose Angie Stone, who was a good mother too, and raised her children, and she's divorced now, but she was married. I chose her because she represents a class in an era where the female music hip hop artists were wearing baggy pants and work boots. She maintained her feminine look, a classy woman, very dark skinned sister with that beautiful afro. She loved black men. She gave honor to them. And in her song titled My Brother, which I believe could be our theme song, used to open any black male unity event. So I salute you, Angie Stone. My third and final lover, she's the queen mother. She could easily be on the queen side as well as the lover and good wife. And in fact, I might end up with 4 because of her. And that is Queen Mother Kathleen Jackson, wife of Joe Jackson for 60 years, and the mother of 10 beautiful, talented children. Did you know that the house was in Gary, Indiana, which I'm very partial to because I'm from Indiana. And if you ever saw that house, which is a historical landmark now, it's not over 1,100 square feet. So you've got 12 people living in this house. She's had 10 children. She got 10 children, her and Joe. So there's 12 people in this little bitty house. And from this house, she created these geniuses. So she fed them, clothed them, and kept them out of harm's way. I don't believe any of her children ever got in trouble. So she's a saint. She's a mother, a good wife, and she's a saint. So salute to you, Mama Jackson. Next category is the Warriors. The Warriors. I try to dig deeper and find somebody besides the common people that we know, females like the Harriet Tubman. No offense, she's a powerful person, Sojourner Truth, and the list could go on. So I dug a little deeper trying to find warriors. This first warrior, her name is Saint Bala, or Belair, French word. She was a lieutenant in the Revolutionary Army in not Haiti, but it was actually make a note on that. Dominican Republic. She's in the Dominican Republic, located, close to the Caribbean islands, under attack by Napoleon. Napoleon was everywhere, and particularly in Haiti and every place in that area. So he was in the Dominican Republic, and he had enslaved the whole country. It was a target on her head and a price on her head, dead or alive, because when you resist, you was the opposition. They're invading your land, but you the bad guy. So this is what was happening. Her husband actually was a general at the time too. They had him in captive because he turned himself in to give up his life to save his wife's life. Of course, they never make deals. They welch on every deal and every treaty. The French, the British were always known for that. So they captured both of them, and they both were found guilty and sentenced to execution. Now get this, in those days, mind you, women would be executed where they would be beheaded, not shot or hung, but they would behead them. She said, no, I want to die and I'm not going to be beheaded. And the other thing, she was actually with child. She was pregnant. So again, to show you the barbarianism of these people, they had no mercy for her. No mercy. So they still killed her. What she did was they usually put a sack over your head. She said, I do not want that over my head. I want to see my accusers. I want to see them and face to face. So they shot her while she was looking at the killers with the bullets, with the guns. So she's indeed a warrior, and she's indeed a shero. So I salute her. We salute her. My second warrior, it takes us to the country, America, and her name is Tituba. Tituba was an enslaved native. They said she was from actually Barbados, but she was a slave. She was bought by a Puritan, a religious Christian Puritan in that era. This particular situation took place in Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem is a village in Massachusetts. And if you recall, if you know anything about him in history, they call it the Winston-Salem witchcraft or Winston-Salem witches. And the reason they did that and the reason they called that, if you did anything outside of the norm of Christianity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, that's what happened. Tituba was a herbalist. She also was a root woman, and she probably was practicing African spiritual culture or system or spirituality. So she was staying with this family. She was living with them. She did something with the girls, some type of ritual ceremony. The young girls told. It begins to spread around the village, other places, other things. So before you know it, they were rounding up these people saying they were practicing witchcraft. Tituba, she stood before the magistrate in the courtroom and explained to him what she was doing. Show you they were so afraid of something, or so afraid of her that they listened to everything she said because it was over their head. Normally, when you don't understand something, you're scared of that thing. And when you become scared of that thing, you normally begin to hate that thing. And when you begin to hate that thing, you'll kill that thing. So they didn't know or understand her. They were scared of her. So they began to round up these people, anybody that was under her influence, and they had them all in custody or in jail. She testified and told them that the devil told her to do it. So she knew their language. She knew their lingo. She knew what to do. So she used that. And what they did was they put her in prison, but they let her out. But they did round up 150 men and women and jailed them. And they actually killed 19 of them. They executed 19 of them. Now, my further research said, Essence magazine said that most of those people that were gathered, that were killed, were black people. So even though the Winston-Salem witchcraft story has been out for hundreds of years, it was started by one young, courageous woman who practiced her culture, who practiced her religion, started that whole thing. So a big salute out to you, Shero, for standing your ground and doing the best you could in the situation you were in. My second warrior is Kathleen my third, excuse me. Yes. My third and final warrior is Kathleen Cleaver. Kathleen Cleaver was a spouse, a Black Panther member of Eldred Cleaver. She was an American law professor and activist in San Francisco. She was a communication secretary for the party. In 1960, she was in the first major attack on the Panthers in LA. Almost 30 members were killed. During that time, a lot of the system were after the men, so they were trying to lock up the men. Eldred Cleaver had left the country. Bobby Seals had been locked up, and of course Huey Newton was also in prison. But he felt confident enough and strong enough to place a woman in charge, and that was Elaine Brown. So Elaine Brown was over the Panthers. So we actually had a woman over the Panthers. Now, the subject came up, and I put some data up. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to have the receipts. I wanted to be accurate before I stated it, that over 70% of the Panthers were women. Well, during the time of Elaine Brown, that wasn't the case. There was actually more men than women. But from that day to now, there are actually more women. So the women are standing up, men, and protecting us. I actually made that an accurate point by checking with the Black Panther chairman in the state of Ohio. She's a Facebook friend of mine. Her name is Nikki Williams. She's the chairman of the state of Ohio. And she said to this day, yes, there are more women than men in the Panther Party. That percentage, 70%, may be a little higher, but it is true. So to show you the women are not playing, brothers. The women are standing the ground. The women say, what we have to do to protect our babies, protect our household, that's what we're going to do. That's really our job, is to protect, maintain, provide. So we need to step it up. So a salute, again, to these powerful, courageous women that stood their ground and did what they had to do to make sure that they made their mark on purpose, because they were all on purpose. Kathleen Cleaver. My last category is the queen, the queendoms. My first candidate, or first person under this category, is Scheherazade Ali. Scheherazade Ali is a mother of 3, and she adopted 9 children and gave birth to 3. So she adopted 9. So she's a little bit behind you, Cat Williams, but she's right there. She believed in the way of marriage. She had 2 husbands. All of them both of them have transitioned and passed on. Her position on men and women and diet shifted the entire Black community in the 80s. She was very popular in the 80s. She was attacked by the opposition, which were her own people. We were the ones that were against and attacked her. But the seeds were planted by her, and the books that she produced were How Not to Eat Pork, 1, the bestseller in the New York Times bestseller, The Black Man's Guide to Understand the Black Woman. And then she flipped it and said, The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man. And the last one is, Are You Still a Slave? Powerful powerful books that resonated and still hit home. And today, those same people in 1989 now, or now some 35 years later, or now give her the most respect and honor and place her in her rightful throne as queen. So we give you the highest salute, queen, in your queendom. And P.S., she appeared on national daytime talk shows, Phil Donahue, being the largest and most controversial image today. But if she was out today with the audiences and the movement that she had then, she would be on YouTube and would have multi-million views to show you the money that could have been made now that wasn't available then. She still made great money in her books. She was the bestseller, and she still speaks occasionally. Her health is not 100%, so she's not as active, but she's still there. My second queen is Mary Louise. Mary Louise, a real queen. She was a real queen over the country in Haiti, or Haiti. And this was, she was the first and only queen under an independent Haiti. And that was 1811 to 1820. But of course, the way the French work, they never give up. They never give up. They constantly come after you. So the queen, she was in exile for 30 years. And in August 1821, she fled to London. So she had to go to London. So she went from right in the mouth of the beast. It's the only place she could find asylum, I believe, at that time, where she was looking for her money. She had put like $3 million in supposed to be in a safe place in London. Now you can imagine in 1800, $3 million is probably equivalent to 6 or 7 today. So it was put away. And of course, when she got there, she couldn't find it. It was gone. So she actually moved to Italy, where she died. But in the interim of that, she wrote a letter and sent it back to Haiti and asked, could she come back? And of course, that didn't happen. So she died in Italy. My salute to you, Queen, that you made a mark, that we remember you, and you have placed your name, your legacy in history. Our third and final queen, who I consider the matriarch. She is the matriarch, and that's Queen Mother Khadija Farrakhan. She's been married to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan for 71 years. She's a great mother, a good mother. And this year, she'll be 89 years old. November of 2024. She's a devoted mother. She has nine children and one deceased. She has one deceased. She is the blueprint for not just the MGT, and that's Muslim Girl Training. That's the teaching, that's the class, that's the group, which is a form of initiation in the Nation of Islam. But she's also, I believe, she's the mother, she's the leader of all Black women in America. Who else could put out a statement if she was to make a call for all the comrades, all the troops, all the females to gather together in one spot? Only she could make that call. So she is the biggest and she's the most powerful. And to show you that could happen, wherever the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan goes, and he's been in places where he's met, dined, and collaborated with heads of states all over the world. Wherever he goes, she's by her side. She's by his side. So again, that gives her that position. So we give honor and praise to the Most High for you, Matriarch Mother Khadijah. This concludes my subjects. This concludes my warriors, lovers, scholars, and scientists. And again, we give homage to all these great and powerful women. We thank you, we love you, and we deeply appreciate you. Ne'akoma.